What's up, guys? Welcome back to another edition of the Too Tall Sports Podcast. You can find me on social media at Too Tall Sports Podcast. You can also email the show, tootallsportspodcast@gmail.com. Love to hear your feedback. Today's episode is with Chris Gronkowski. Yes, you know the name, the brother of Rob Gronkowski. But Chris and I met in college, and we go over through his career. He played in the NFL for a few years, and he also came up with a company called Ice Shaker, which he was later featured on Shark Tank. He got a deal with Mark Cuban and Alex Rodriguez, and so we go over how things are going today, and also, of course, how his brother Rob is going to be doing with Tom Brady in Tampa, and we discuss all things life for Chris Gronkowski. Enjoy the episode. I have had a lot of people ask me my opinion on what's going on in this country right now. I think I will feature that on the next episode and give you my thoughts on how everything's going right now. We understand it's a tough time, and we're definitely not tone deaf on this show, but I will address that next week for my next episode. Hope everybody's safe right now. I know it's a very contentious time, but I'm going to provide at least some entertainment from that, and next week I'll give you my thoughts on the next episode. But for now, here's my conversation with Chris. Enjoy. All right, welcome back to another edition of the Too Tall Sports Podcast. I'm lucky enough to be joined by one of the Gronks, but I'd say probably the smartest Gronk, Chris Gronkowski. Let's go.
What's up, man? Thanks for having me. I like the intro, man.
I appreciate it.
I don't usually get introed like that. Usually they say like the most jacked one or like the coolest brother. But
no, dude, you're the brains of the operation.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah. So if you guys don't know, he's the owner of Ice Shaker, which is a insulated shaker bottle company for fitness. There it is right there. Show him the pub if you're on YouTube. And he's also a former NFL player, and he was on Shark Tank once before, so I want to get in on all of that. But first, I wanted to kind of go back and just kind of see how your career progressed with football and then how you became a business owner at the end. So let's get to it,
man. I like it. What about my baseball career, though?
That's what I want to talk about. That's how we met. So I wanted to ask you, so in high school, so you're originally from Buffalo, New York, right?
Yep.
And were you playing both baseball and football in high school?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm a huge fan of playing every sport. I know I'm in Texas now, and everyone's so specialized in football only. And in Buffalo, it was almost like that as well, but it was with hockey. So if you played hockey, it was almost like you played hockey and that was it. You know, you all year round, travel teams, all that. And the high school coach would push hard on that. So if you didn't play hockey all year round, it was kind of hard to make the team. So we really made this transition when we went to high school that, you know, if we wanted to play hockey and kind of go after that dream, we could, but we had to commit to it. Or, you know, we could play every sport like we always did. And so that's kind of actually when we gave up hockey. You know, it was one of our first sports we played, hockey and baseball. And I ended up giving it up in high school to play football instead. So never even played football until we got to the high school level.
That's impressive. So all five, you have 5 or 4 brothers, so there's 5 of you. Did you all play hockey?
Yeah, all grew up playing hockey. First sport, probably our first sport, or maybe t-ball. But hockey was the first like physical sport where you got to hit people, so it was cool.
And then who introduced you guys to football?
So my oldest brother, or not my oldest brother never played. He played baseball. He went on to get drafted late, and he was a twig, so he was kind of scared to play football at the time. My dad played in college at Syracuse, and he just never felt like he had to push anything on us, though. So it wasn't about, hey, I play football, you guys need to play football. It was, you know, if you guys wanted to, you could play. So my older brother Dan was the one who started, and after that, for me, it was like, man, that's the coolest thing ever. I want to be like my brother Dan. He started quarterback. He was a beast out there. I mean, he was like 6'6" in high school, 235 pounds, and he was a man among kids, man. That's what it looked like, and I thought it was so cool. He got a scholarship, and I'm like, wow, I want to be like him. And so that's what started it. And after that, it was just, you know, it went down the pipe, and went to me, went to Rob, went to my younger brother Glenn, and we all played football after that.
Okay, so and I think I read you went to Maryland first, though, right? Before you went to UA.
Yeah, so I went. It's hard to get a scholarship out of Buffalo, New York. I can promise you that. Out of all of New York, I think there's 5 Division I scholarships in football, and New York's a big state. I mean, population-wise, it's huge. So You look at a state like Florida, which is a very similar population, and they were having 350 guys go Division One.
Right.
Texas, same thing. California, same thing. Buffalo, 5 guys. So you're like, wow, no one's really recruiting in Buffalo. So it was hard to come out of there. And for me, I wasn't even the second best player in my own family. So it was a tough road for me. I was going to every camp. I was doing everything I could. I watched my older brother Dan, who was was absolute beast. He got a couple scholarship offers, and that was it. And he went to Maryland. For me, I was actually committed to go to the University of Pennsylvania. I got accepted into the Wharton Business School, and everyone was like, "That's insane! Like, it's so hard to do. Like, you have to follow up on this opportunity." And I was excited, but at the same time, I'm like, "Man, $50,000 a year. There's a lot of money to come out of your pocket." And I had a couple Division I scholarships. I had University of Buffalo. I had Division I AA, and at the time, I was like, I'm gonna do what's best for me, and I'm gonna go to Penn. I'll pay, but I know I'm gonna come out of it, and I'm gonna be set. I'm gonna have a really good education, and I should be good to go from there. But last minute, I end up getting an offer from the University of Maryland, and what ended up happening, I tell people this all the time, is grades got me in to D1. It wasn't necessarily my athletic talent. It was the fact that they were about to go on academic probation. They lost a couple of recruits, running backs that were, they were now going to prep school because they couldn't get in because of their grades. And they were like, wow, your brother Dan's doing really well here, and he has really good grades. He's like a 4.0 student. As long as you keep, the grade point average up, we'll bring you in and put you on scholarship. So I got this scholarship with like 2 weeks left in summer, and they asked me if I wanted it, and I was like, let's go.
Let's go, yeah.
Man, I was like, free school, really a good school too, good business program. They were in the top 20 in the nation. And man, I was weighing the options of, $200,000 coming out of college or $0 coming out of college. So to me, I was like, hey, let's go. Let's play football at the highest level. Let's do this thing. So went to Maryland with my brother Dan, played there, redshirted. And then my second year, I was playing like special teams, stuff like that. But it was a tough situation. The coach was, man, like super, super old school. And it came to the point where we had a meeting. He brought my brother Robin, who's the number one recruit in the nation, and he was like, right in front of Robin and my brother. The head coach told him that, if we love Dan, he's awesome, but your brother Chris, I don't know if he'll ever play here. And I was like, man, and this all really it stemmed from I missed one practice, and I missed one practice because I got hurt during the practice. I was never late to anything. I had good grades. I was they called it the Iron Turp Award. I was the strongest per pound player as a freshman in the running back room. And I was going hard, man. And I was on goal line, and we only had one goal line fullback, and it was me. And I got hurt, and we couldn't run goal line that day. And after that, he threw me off goal line and told me I wouldn't play for him anymore. And so I was like, man, I'm putting everything into this. I'm going hard. And, when a coach tells that to your family, first off, my brother's like, well, I'm not going here. No way in hell I'm playing for this guy. And
that's cool of Rob to do that, because he could have gone there, and your brother was already there. So it's like he didn't have to leave.
Yeah, it would have been all three of us. And so it would have been, that's kind of what we wanted to happen. And we're like, man, 3 brothers on the same team would be amazing, right? And, the coach just comes in there firing at me, and my brother's like, I'm not playing for this guy ever. There's no way. And so at that point, it was kind of like, hey, let's game plan. Who will take me still? And where can I go that, if you went in the same division or same conference, I'd actually have to sit out 2 years for football. So he had a lot of scholarship offers. Like Clemson was willing to do it. But it really came down to, this trip to Arizona with a family friend of my dad's. My dad's in the fitness industry, sells fitness equipment. There's a guy, Donnie Salem was his name. He sold fitness equipment. He went to U of A. He played in the NFL. He has the U of A tattoo on his arm.
Oh, wow.
He was just diehard U of A. And he was just like, you guys have to go here, up and coming. We're going to do this. So he talked it up so big. And so finally we went on a visit, and that's what sold us. We went there. There was a huge pool party at one of the apartment complexes.
Of course.
I think it was a wet tea contest with a keg, multiple kegs, probably like 10 kegs, more like it. And we're like, man, I've never seen anything like this before. We're from Buffalo.
That's a lot different than Buffalo.
And you get there and you're like, how is this even allowed? And so we partied. Rob went back for an official visit. He was, I think he was on top of, or Willie Tuatama was on top of his car, dancing, partying, and he's texting me and calling me like, man, this is the best place ever. You got to come here. And the next thing you know, man, we're in Arizona. And so he really went from having every offer in the nation, to signing there because he felt comfortable. They said they would also they would bring me in as well. They give me a chance to play baseball, which I think they kind of just let me on the team at that point just to get Rob there. And then
I mean, hey, that's our connection. So that's how I met you, right? You got to play baseball. Is that
hey man,
something? Was that something you really wanted to do, or you just wanted to mainly go play football?
no, so I mean, I was a better baseball player than I was football. So I always, I wanted to test it. My older brother was doing really well in baseball as well. He's a freshman All-American. He was doing really well, and I'm like, man, I smoked him in high school. So
Yeah.
I was like, I have a chance to play still, but once you take 2 years off, it's hard to come back, man, and then play at that level. So it took me a while just to get it back, and after a while, I was like, man, this really isn't my passion, and that's why I didn't pursue baseball in the first place. But that year really gave me the opportunity to say, like, hey, it really is out of my blood. Like, this really isn't what I wanted to do. And so it was cool that they allowed me to do it. Oh, did I lose my
No,
headset?
yeah, you're good.
But yeah, it was a great opportunity to let me go and try it. And I did, and I put my all into it, but it was tough because I was doing both at the same time.
Yeah.
I was playing baseball and football, and neither of them was giving me a break. So I was doing like the baseball workouts, the football workouts, and then I was doing the double headers and everything on the weekends. And then I was going to practice, and I was practicing for football at the same time. And it finally got to the point where I was like, hey, I lost a bunch of weight. I was down to when I got there, I was probably about 240, 245. And after all that, I was down to like 210. And I was looking shredded. I remember Brad Glenn was like, yo, why are you looking so jacked? And I'm like, man, I'm not even jacked. I'm just skinny at this point. And it was just too much. I mean, it was a beatdown, 2 sports plus school. And finally, I'm like, I have to make a decision. Like, let me go with football. They're paying me. They're giving me the scholarship. I got to make a choice here and let me go all in with it. And so that's why I went to football. And it was a good choice for me. And I was put into a position where it was up to me if I wanted to excel or not. Fullback position where they pretty much said, hey, we don't really use one, but if you do good, we'll use one. And
Yeah.
I went from 8 plays the first game to 20 the next game to 35 the next game, and just got more and more playing time as the year went on, and was able to excel from there.
Yeah. So you got to play with Rob for a couple of years at U of A. Is that right?
Yeah, so his first year I had to sit out, and
Okay.
then his second year I played with him, and then his third year he was hurt the whole season. So I only really got one full season in with him.
Okay. And then you both were you because I think so. Rob went to the combine even after his injured year, and then were you thinking about that maybe you got a chance to go as well?
So I wasn't invited to the combine.
Okay.
You have to get invited, but
Right.
I had a great opportunity still, and I knew it wouldn't be a high draft pick or anything like that, but I knew I had a chance. And so I went and trained. I went and trained with him in Miami, and I got ready for it. And I knew I'd have a chance to, do pro day is what happens. Only about 300 guys get invited to the combine.
Right.
After that, there's a lot of guys that also get drafted that just don't get invited for whatever reason. So
Right.
I didn't get invited. And as a fullback, I think they invite like 2 fullbacks.
That's hard to do, man, because you're just not like a star position. You're not, getting the reps either.
Yeah, there's when I entered the league, there was 28 teams that had a fullback, and so there's multiple teams that didn't have one, and then out of those teams, they carried one. Whereas like a tight end position, you got 4 tight ends on a team.
Right.
A running back, you have 4 running backs on a team. A fullback, every team I was on, I was the only fullback on the team. And so it was like, all right, if you got hurt, oh, cool, we'll just use the tight end instead.
Yeah.
So you're a little bit better, a little more specialized for fullback, but at the end of the day, we could just use our 3rd string tight end and do the same thing you were doing. So why are we going to waste a roster spot on you? So it was a challenge. It was a position that, you're never going to get paid a lot either.
Yeah.
And you also had to find a way to stick. And for me, it was playing every special teams as well. So that really got me through my career was, hey, I can play fullback, which is a position that might get 30 snaps a game, but I'm also going to play another 30 snaps on every single special teams and actually do a good job at it. And it's something that is a little more important than what people see and know about, but special teams can change a lot in the game. And they do put, they bring in guys to only play special teams on some teams.
Yeah, you can make a career out of it, right? There's dudes like the guy on the Patriots, that's Slater guy.
Slater.
Yeah. You can make
Absolutely.
a lot of money doing it. I mean, eventually.
So your salary goes up every year, and so he's he's at this point, he's guaranteed probably close to $1 million a year because he's 8 years in or 10 years in or whatever he is. So yeah, man, you could definitely a long snapper, same thing. Long
Yeah.
snapper naps for 20 years, man, and you make $1 million a year. You're doing pretty good.
Yeah. So Rob gets drafted obviously by the Patriots, and then what are your thoughts? Like you're coming off the obviously during the draft, you're thinking maybe you got a chance to go, and then after the draft, you get the call from the Cowboys, right?
Yeah, so I was kind of told that there's a slight chance that I might get drafted, and a couple teams said they were thinking about it, and a couple teams called me during the draft. And I got all excited, and I'm
Right.
like, here we
This
go.
is it. This is the call.
They're
Yeah.
like, hey, it's like 5th round. Hey, we're just calling to tell you that if you don't get drafted, we'll sign you right after the draft. And I'm like,
Thanks
yeah,
a
you
lot.
can tell me like after the draft was over to tell me that, but
Yeah.
for me, it kind of with my position, it was almost a blessing. I watched my brother go in the 7th round. And what was rough for him was he was taken as a value pick. He was one of the best players left at the end. And so the Detroit Lions picked him up, and he sat behind like four tight ends that were good, that they're planning on keeping. But they kept him, or they drafted him because they said, hey, he's the best player left. So, let's bring him in. And so he got stuck in this position where, he was good. He was good enough to make a bunch of teams, but they were just absolutely stacked in that position. So going undrafted for me, instead of getting drafted late, was almost a blessing because my agent was able to put me into a situation where he knew I'd excel or had a really good chance at least. So he scouted it out. I had Drew Rosenhaus, one of the best in the game.
For sure. Yeah, he has a lot of big names.
Yeah, and so it was kind of one of those things where I signed with another agent at first, actually, but it was a mess. So my brother signed with Drew, and I was like, man, I saw the way Drew did things and how he got stuff done and all the knowledge that he had. And I was like, hey, Drew, can you represent me as well? And so he picked me up almost as a favorite because, man, he wouldn't have just went and got me. He's picking up first rounders all day. So to bring me in and pay for everything, I mean, they pay for the training. It's thousands of dollars up front to pay up front on players. So to take someone like me is a chance that he might never make his money back on. But he did it just to, definitely help out and, help the family as well. So he did that. He was ready for the draft for me though. 100% prepared, even though I wasn't one of his best players in that draft. He had to scout it out. He knew that the Cowboys needed a fullback. They used it a lot. And the one that they had there was a really good player, but he did some stuff in the offseason that put him in some hot water. So he, personally was like, hey, at the very least, you're probably going to get put on practice squad in case anything else happens with this guy, as long as I perform and I do pretty well. And, you would actually have a good chance of actually making the team. So I went in there undrafted, signed, got the phone call and got it done within 3 minutes after the draft ended. Drew already knew where I was going to go. The second it ended, he said, you're signing with the Cowboys. I said, awesome, let's do it.
Let's go. Yeah.
I didn't really have to ask him why. I just said, yeah, man, I'm in. Let's do this thing. And, I knew I had one shot. I had one opportunity to make the team. And in 10 years, no one as an undrafted free agent had made the Dallas Cowboys roster. So I knew I had to put some work in. I was lucky enough to actually get, my roommate at the time was an undrafted free agent as well from Maryland that I was roommates with, center. His name's Phil Costa. And we got there together. We didn't even really know. We talked to each other still a little bit, but we got there together. We're like, hell yeah, man. It's game time because we were very similar. Both had that fire underneath us, and we're like, man, let's make a pact right now. We're gonna make this team, both of us. I don't care if no one's made it in 10 years, and that's how it was. And from that day forward, all summer, everything we did, our main goal was just to make that team. And we called it like we had sup parties is what we called it. Instead of going out and partying, we were sitting there taking vitamins, all the supplements we could get from the training staff, and we were just pounding them, just eating as healthy as we could. And people would come over and be like, how are you guys even eating that? I mean, we'd eat just chicken that was, nothing, no seasoning or anything on it.
Right.
And we're just pounding it. And I still remember Phil just like, he almost threw up a couple times just from trying to eat so much chicken, and he had to keep weight. I mean, he was a center and he had to weigh over 300 pounds, and he was a little bit smaller of a frame. So he's probably just a little under 6'3". So it was tough for him to keep weight. So we both would just be pounding food, and to the point where it was gross. Like we didn't know how to cook and we didn't know how to flavor anything, but we were going to do everything that we had to do to make that team. And at the end of that camp, he probably got into over 50 fights in the camp. I'm battling with these linebackers that have been there for years, and as a rookie, undrafted free agent, nobody wants to let you beat them. It doesn't matter if it's a walkthrough. It does not matter. So the starting fullback would be in there, and they'd fit up with him, and it would be like this nice little play. And then I'll go in there, and it was just full steam downhill. We're going at each other, just smashing heads. And this is like the day before game, our first preseason game, and all we have is shells on, and we're just smashing each other. And I'm like, man, this is it, man. This is the real deal, and I'm not backing down. And so at the end of it, he ended up being told that he was going to make the team a couple days before cut day. And I was like, damn, man, that's got to be a good feeling, right? And cut day came. We all get put into a room, and they called him the Grim Reaper at the time. So this one guy had the responsibility to, come in and point at you basically and tell you, coach wants to see you.
Just like Hard Knocks kind of thing?
Yeah, man. Yeah. So the whole team's in the room in front of everyone, and you just sit there, and one at a time, hey, coach wants to see you. Everyone's like, oh, damn, man, that guy's a good player. Like, I can't believe they're cutting him right now. And then 2 minutes later, hey, coach wants to see you. Boom, another guy goes down, and you're like, man, this is rough. You're like, and you're just, please don't point at me is all you're thinking at the time. So at the end of it, probably, after about 20 minutes, all the coaches come in and they're like, hey, congratulations, everyone in this room has made the team. And you're just like, hell yeah, man, let's go. But even with that, especially for me, man, it was never ending though. The next day you could still be released, and guys were, because the waiver wire was wide open now. Guys were being cut everywhere throughout the league. So at any time they could pick up another fullback that they thought, maybe was a little bit better, and brought him in and put me on practice squad or whatever it was. So my whole career was like that though. Nothing was ever guaranteed. Even after I made the team, I had a $10,000 signing bonus. And that was given to me the first day. And after that, if I was not on the roster on a Wednesday, I wasn't getting paid. So I could get cut at any time. Absolutely no guarantees, nothing. So I knew it. I knew I had to fight and claw every single day. And I did ended up getting 4 seasons in, got, pension, 401k, everything I needed.
That's awesome.
And, I played in 35 games as a player, undrafted free agent that, man, I never thought I'd even play down. I never thought I had a chance to make it to that level.
Right. And so you got to play for 3 different organizations. I wanted to ask you kind of the difference between playing for Dallas, obviously that's the big name, Indianapolis, and then you play for Denver. What were the differences between those 3? Man,
Dallas was it was a show, man. I got there and I called it the car show. When you rolled up, everyone had a $100,000 car. It was just big names, man. Big name. And that's what it was all about, man. The number of reporters on the field was insane. It was all about press. It was all about, as much
the brand.
As much as possible, as much exposure as you could possibly get. That's what they were about. And so that's all I knew at first. And, going to a game was insane. I mean, I was used to going to Buffalo Bills games. I grew up a Bills fan. And, I'd watch people just pissing on the wall as you left the game. And, the biggest thing during the game was watching all the yellow shirts run to one section because it was a big fight. So all the security guards would just fly over there, and then they fly over there. And so
and jumping through the tables. The Bills Mafia is insane, right?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. So that's what I was used to going to and seeing. And then, I go to Dallas, and it was like, wow, like there's so much distractions going on that you really have to sit there and focus on what's going on, because, man, there's people dancing on the ceiling. There's cheerleaders on the 3rd row, man, in the upper decks. You're like, what is going on right now? Let me focus in on this game. So definitely different feeling there. Went to Indy, and I thought Indy was kind of the best fit for me. It was a culture where it was completely different, man. It was all pickup trucks, and no one had a flashy car, man. It was kind of like this blue collar team, and everyone was kind of undersized, and they're kind of known for that, just being this undersized team that just worked hard. And I was like, man, this is a pretty cool fit for me. And I thought I'd play in Indy for a long time. Ended up getting hurt my 7th game there. I had pec surgery. I was done for the year. And I still was like, hey, I'm going to be here for a while is what I thought. New coach came in named Bruce Arians.
Yeah.
I'm the head coach in Tampa, which is funny. But the second he came in, I started reading about him. And the first thing I saw was that an article saying Bruce Arians will never use a fullback in his offense. And I was like, man, that's pretty interesting.
That's a great feeling. Yeah.
And so I met him. He's like, hey, Gio, do you think you could play like this wing position? I'm like, hell yeah. Like that's what I played in college. Like I'd love to play the wing position because you catch passes, you get to kind of like blindside and double team people, and it's awesome. So I was like, yeah, man, that's what me and Rob did in college. Like, I'd love to put the wing. And draft comes along, he drafts 2 tight ends, and I'm like, that's kind of weird. And next thing I know, next practice, I'm standing on the sidelines after I was in on every single starting package, and I'm like, man, this is kind of weird. What's going on? And that day, I get tapped on the shoulder, and I'm told that I just got traded. And I'm like, oh,
wow.
I guess I'm going to Denver. So end up in Denver. The reason I went to Indy and why they brought me in the first place was because Peyton got hurt, and they wanted to go to more of a run game. They hadn't had a fullback in over 10 years, I think it was, in Indy. So I was the first fullback there in like 10 years. So once Peyton went to Denver, they took me there as well, and they traded for me. So they thought I was a really good fit for Peyton and everything that was happening. So I was kind of that fullback for Peyton. But once Peyton got back out on the field, he was healthy enough to run his old offense, and we never used the fullback. So
right.
I went there and just mostly just played special teams, and I played very, very few snaps on the offense because the offense was really built around the speed and a bunch of receivers and 5 wide. So it was definitely cool, and it was I felt special that they traded for me, but at the end of the day, I would have been a lot better somewhere else.
Yeah, it's tough because not every regime is different. Like you said with Bruce Arians, and he doesn't use tight ends that often either. So I guess we'll see how Rob does. I'm sure he's going to get used now, but some offenses are just not built for certain players.
Yeah. So I did what I had to do, and it was just all special teams, and that's how I survived. And I played on all of them. Most guys, will play on a couple. Even as an offensive player, I was still playing kickoff cover and all that, and tackling people too. So just had to do what I had to do to stay around.
Yeah. So after your career is done, you decide, you're retiring. I know you had some injuries and stuff that kind of prevented you from moving forward, which is unfortunate. But then I think I saw you and your wife started something called Everything Decorated, right?
Yeah, man, it was crazy. So it was my 3rd year in. I was in Denver, and my wife was like, "I am not finding another job. Like, this is getting ridiculous." I found a new job in Dallas. Then we went to India. I found a job, and now we're in Denver. I'm gonna find a way to work from home.
Right.
And, please do something though, because I just didn't want it to be something where she just sat around doing nothing. And so she did. She started hand painting wine glasses, and I came home and they were in the oven, and she had to bake them for like 30 minutes. And I'm like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. And the thing was that they started to sell, and I was like, oh wow, like I can't believe she's selling these. But they were just taking so long to make. I mean, she had to hand paint them herself, which took a long time. She had to bake them, which took a long time, and she couldn't keep up. So she actually had to find a way to start scaling it, and she did. She started using vinyl cutters, stuff like that. And I really, like, at that point, I was like, wow, like, this is kind of taking off. That season ended. I started helping her in the off season. I started researching it myself, and we invested in a laser engraver at that time. And I did as much as I could. And then I got signed by San Diego. So I went to play, and I played there, and I was there for about 6 months in San Diego, and she kept growing it herself, and ended up getting hurt. And so when I got hurt, I had a high ankle sprain. I took an injury settlement, and they pay you out for the length of the injury. So at that point, I couldn't come back until that was all over with anyways. So I had to just rehab. And so as I rehabbed, I helped build this company up and did as much as I can. And then after that, I tried to come back. I ran a 40 in Miami. I ruptured my hamstring, and
man,
it was kind of one of those things where it was, hey, do you want to have surgery and repair it and get it reattached, or do you want to move on and you can still live without it? It's going to scar down, and you won't be as explosive, and you have a tendency maybe to hurt yourself more, but you can definitely live without it. So
right.
At that point, it was almost a blessing for me, because a lot of guys struggle, man. I still see it all the time with players, and it's years a lot of times for them to finally make that decision to give it up. And so for me, it was like, all right, I'm 100% done. Like there's no feelings in my head that I want to go back and play. I'm not having surgery again. And so let's just end this. So, I rehabbed from that. And then that whole time I just said, let's go into business. And so went all in on that. And, that year we actually ended up making more money in her business than I was making playing in the NFL. So it was a really good transition for me. Um,
Yeah, that's
we
great.
were grinding it out of our house. My 3-car garage was full of product. We were working out of my spare bedroom in the house it's now my kid's bedroom, but just did everything we could and really used what I learned in football and, the hard work, the hustle. Sports is a lot more, as you know, than just being a good athlete. It's learning the playbook. It's studying the other teams, what other people are doing, and just finding a way, man. So at that
Yeah.
point, I was literally just waking up at 6 a.m. And I was figuring out everything I could about the business, and I was going to bed at midnight, and that's all I did all day. Every day. How can I make better listings? How can I get on the front page? How can I get this product out in time, get it more efficient, do it faster? And man, I wasn't even working out. I was just literally working all day, every
Yeah.
day. And that was it. It was just a grind, and we were just building and building and building. And to me, my time was money. So it was for me to go to the gym for an hour, I was going to lose a couple $100. So I just kept working and working and working, and uh, almost to the point where on Sundays when we finally went to go see family, I would be passed out on the couch when we were hanging out with them, and everyone's like, "Man, what's wrong with you?" And
You were burnt out.
got to that point.
Yeah.
I never I don't know if I was that. It's something that was always just instilled in me. Like the hard work never bothered me, but what ended up happening was that I was just stopping myself from growing further. I could only do so much on my own. And so we hit this ceiling where, we were making really good money, but we could go so much further if we brought on a team. And that's when we started bringing other people in.
Okay, so now are you still running that, and how did that kind of transition you into Ice Shaker?
So yeah, we're still running it. It's still growing. We're still hiring more people. We're looking for a
Oh
new building
wow.
right now because it's really taking off, and everything with that's happening right now with the coronavirus and the lockdowns has really pushed people to e-commerce. So it's 100% e-commerce, and it's just going to a whole nother level right now too, man. So it's been cool, but it's a lot of work, and a lot of people don't want to work right now. They're getting some pretty good checks on unemployment. So
Right.
to hire someone right now has been kind of tough. But I did that for about 5 years. I still help out. I do all I can to help grow it. And for Mother's Day, I was working from Saturday and Sunday, pretty much all day up until Friday to get the orders out in time for Mother's Day. So I'm kind of like that emergency safety valve to get stuff engraved and out the door because everything's personalized. But 5 years in, really, was awesome. It was great, but it was my wife's passion, and it really, at the end of the day, it wasn't my passion.
Right.
And I thought of the idea for the ice shaker when I was working out. I was at the gym, and I got there, and my bottle was warm, was sweating everywhere. I was making little sweat rings on the floor at the gym, and I was like, man, why isn't there something insulated that I could shake my freaking pre-workout or my protein shakes in, and bring it to the gym with me? And went home that day, and I'm like, I'm just going to find an insulated bottle that. The goal was really one bottle that I can use all day, every day. And at that time, there was just nothing out there. There's a ton of insulated bottles, but there's nothing that was easy to fill and then shake, easy to clean, and then blend up stuff. And so I was like, man, let's just make one bottle for everything that I can use at the gym, but also at the office. I could throw it in my bag for the airplane, and at any time I could mix up a shake if I needed to, and that was the goal. So started off just taking pretty much a regular shaker bottle and insulating it, and just needed a proof of concept at that point. Started online on Amazon. I figured that it's the biggest marketplace in the U.S. If I can't sell it on Amazon, it's not going to sell anywhere.
Right.
And,
And
so
water bottles are expensive, like that, or that's a competitive market. Like, or
super,
yeah.
super competitive, and yeah, I mean, you could find hundreds of them on Amazon. And I was, at that point, it was just I went back to the grind, man. Kind of the same thing I did with my wife's business. How do I get on the front page of Amazon? How do I optimize this? And I had no clue. I'd never done it before, but other people did. And so I'd look at their pages and I'd say, what separates theirs from mine? And there's a bunch of things. It was pictures, it was keywords, it was just the way they wrote things. And so I had to just study other listings, and I'd take the top 5 and just say, maybe it wasn't even water bottle, maybe it was something else, completely different product. And I'd look at it and say, why is that ranked first and why isn't mine? And so I would just compare, and I'd take the best things out of everyone's, say, man, this is working on Amazon. There's a reason why this is working. let me apply it to mine. So no one taught me anything. It was all about just figuring it out myself. And so I grinded, got it on the front page. It was like, top 5 for shaker bottles. And then I had to, we started doing shows. So we started doing bodybuilding shows and really wanted to get it in front of people to see if it sold. I really wanted that proof of concept before, we went big and I had this opportunity to go on Shark Tank. And before that happened, I wanted to make sure I at least had a product that people wanted.
Yeah, you had to be ready. You had to be, because they always ask you, what are your sales numbers over the last year? What is this proprietary? What's so special about your product type of thing? So once you get on Shark Tank, what was that experience like?
Yeah, so that was huge. It all came from an email. 2013, I was still playing in the NFL at the time, but my agent sent out an email saying the producers of Shark Tank are looking for former players. And at the time, I'm like, man, I got nothing. But when I thought of this idea, it was kind of this whole game plan in the back of my head that I was going to get on the show. So I reached back out to them. I had to submit a video. I went all in on it, ripped my shirt off, touchdown passes, everything I possibly could to kind of entertain them. And they wrote back and said, like, hey, we'd love to have you on the show. But it wasn't that easy. It was still like 6 months of paperwork and all kinds of craziness. But the show's the real deal. At that time, when I first reached out to him, I wanted to have some sales. So I had about $25,000 in sales in the first 3 months. Once I got on the show, we were about 6 months in. And I had this 3-month window from when I contacted them to when we were going to actually film to get as many sales as I could. So we got it up to about $80,000 in sales, with majority of it coming in the last 2 months. So I think it was like 55 grand or like 50 grand was like within the last 2 months of being on the show. So I just wanted to get it to a number that was somewhat respectable. So that
you had some momentum going into the show at least.
Yeah, absolutely. And so got on there. It was amazing. It's everything they say it is. I was lucky enough to have my brothers on there as well. That made it a lot more comfortable. They all came out of the back room. We chest bumped, and it was game on at that point.
Yeah.
And it was good. We got offers from all 5 Sharks. Ended up closing a deal with Mark Cuban and Alex Rodriguez, and it felt like the perfect fit for us. And everything that they say is true. I mean, they had no clue who we were when we went on there. They had no clue what the product was. And, the money's real that they put in. The money hits the bank account. It's a real deal. The exposure is huge. It's probably, 5 million people watching the show at that time. A lot of people then watched it on Hulu and recorded as well. So you get this nice little wave that lasts for like a week of just solid sales. And after that, it's, we get the reruns. And then we were lucky enough to get an update as well, 1-year update. So we went from that 80,000 to over 3 million in sales within the first 12 months of being on the show.
That's impressive, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was huge. And it really just took probably a 5-year process and pushed it down to 1 year is what it did. It was a huge proof of concept. If you go on the show and all 5 Sharks, give you an offer, everyone's like, well, if they all want it, I need to buy one.
Yeah.
So you get that immediate proof of concept, and you get the money, you get the exposure, and you also get the reruns. So we got the reruns, we got the updates. So we get hit up like all the time. Our site will just explode one night. And I'll come in, I'm like, must have been a rerun.
Yeah.
Our rerun was on the night before. But took all that money, and we started investing it into more product. I really, at that time, I had 1 bottle, 1 color, and that was it. We now have a huge product line. We put out over 150 different SKUs at this point, and have 6 different bottles now. So it's been a good run.
I wanted to ask you kind of mentally, you're obviously Rob is the big name of the family. Your older brother was already playing in the NFL. Your wife had her thing. Did you mentally feel like this was your time?
Yeah, man, for sure. Yeah, it was all game planned out, and I'm like, this is it. Like, this is my time to shine. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do it big. I'm gonna do it right, and everything just lined up perfect. I mean, I had no clue if I'd actually get on the show, but the second I brought the product in, I was like, hey, this is my 3-month timeline, and this is when I'm gonna hit them up. So I got to get to at least some kind of respectable number, and then I got 6 months. I didn't know at that time, but once they told me, we were gonna record in June, I believe it was like, all right, I got 3 more months now to really stack this on. And so, yeah, it did, man. It felt like everything lined up perfect. And it was like, all right, it's my time to shine. Let's do this.
That's great, dude. That's awesome. And I checked out, they have a great website. Is it iceshakerbottle.com?
So just iceshaker.com.
Just iceshaker.com.
All of our handles on social media are at iceshakerbottle.
Nice. Okay. Last question. Obviously, I had to ask. Your brother now in Tampa with Tom. What are your thoughts on the whole thing? Did you know he was coming back recently? Was this all in the works from the beginning? How did this all happen?
Man, I'm excited for sure. Man, I didn't know if he'd come back. I mean, he was hurting. He was hurting bad. We do this event called Stadium Blitz now, where it's an obstacle course race through NFL stadiums. And last year, I whooped him, man. Like, he was still hurting bad. We actually did one in Tampa, and I was beating him by like 5 minutes through this obstacle course, and which is pretty bad. So I mean, he was beat up. He was beat up bad, and seeing him competing against all five brothers and really not even he played games 80 snaps a game. I'm like, I know his endurance is better than this. There's no reason why he shouldn't be running with me. I've been retired for 8 years now. Come on. And no, he was beat up bad. I mean, he couldn't walk after the Super Bowl for almost 2 weeks. His whole leg bled out. No one knew that. We couldn't party after the Super Bowl. He couldn't even walk. We actually carried him to the bathroom after the game so he could take a leak. And like, it was bad, man. And so I thought it was done. I thought it was it was out of his blood. It was a beatdown. He came. He proved everything he had to prove. So the only time I started to think that maybe there was a chance once I saw Tom go to Tampa, and then I heard that my brother threw passes with him, and then he told me he did, and he's like, man, I threw passes. I ran like 50 routes straight. I wasn't even tired. I'm like, that's pretty impressive. He's like, yeah, I know. Like, I feel like I still got it. I'm like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
and that was kind of it. And then there's other things where I'm just watching him train, and I'm like, man, like, he's going pretty hard. And we asked him, and his response was he was training for life, is what he told us. So I'm just training for life. And so I'm like, all right. So I don't know. So I think once he finally got to that point where, there's a lot of things that had to actually line up for it to happen. I mean, he was still under contract with New England. New England couldn't even bring him back really if they wanted to, because they have no money left on their cap. And that's also kind of the reason that Tom left as well. But there's so many things. They had to then trade him. They had to trade him for a pick that they wanted back. Tampa had to want him as well. And so there's just a lot of things that had to line up. He had to feel good. He had to feel good about the situation for him to come back. So he has a lot of off the field opportunities that he turned down.
Yeah, he was doing WWE for a little bit.
Yeah. And so yeah, it was definitely, I think, a tough call. But at the end of the day, man, if it's still in your blood, you got to do it, man, because you're going to regret it if you don't. And I think that's the situation he was in. I said when he retired, man, it's one of the hardest things to do because he was still the best. For me to retire, it was easy because I wasn't getting phone calls anymore. I was hurt. I was beat up. That's easy to walk away from. But when you literally win a Super Bowl, you're still the best, and you're 29 years old. That's tough to walk away from it. And it's also from as a player perspective, and with fans, the fans were, they're killing them over it. Hey man, why are you leaving? You're 29. Why are you giving up on us? Kind of deal. So, I thought he walked away at the right time, but if it's not out of your system, you're always going to have that regret. And so, go live it, man.
Why not play? Yeah.
If that's what's, if you're going to regret it the rest of your life, then go back and let's do this.
Totally. Well, you know what? I know you got a lot of stuff going on, so I really appreciate your time. Just one more time, where can everybody find you and Ice Shaker and all that stuff?
Yep, for sure. So check me out at Chris Gronkowski, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, everything. I'm on TikTok. It's good. But also at Ice Shaker, iceshaker.com and Ice Shaker Bottle on all the social platforms. We do a lot. We like to put out value-based content, workouts, recipes. You'll see me working out with my kids, everything, man. I love to provide value to people. And, by me providing value to others and them actually doing it and using it, that's huge for me, man. That brings value back to me, and that's what keeps me going. So please check it out. Please share it. Please do it. Please tag me and try out some of the workouts.
For sure, man.
To get better.
I'm gonna go get an Ice Shaker bottle right after this.
Yeah. So we could customize them as well. If you have an actual show logo, I don't know if you do not yet or not, but we do that all the time for the podcast to go on. Shoot over a bottle afterwards with the logo on it, man, and it's a great promo tool as well. But or you put that motivational quote on it. And,
yeah, exactly.
Get you going, man. You look at it, you're like, all right, I got to get that workout in today.
Exactly.
Well, you know what, Chris? I appreciate it. Great job, and I wish you the best of luck. Hope we can catch up down the road soon.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
All right.
Good talking to you again.
Yeah, for sure.